Dear conference attendees, a very warm welcome to you all. I'm very thankful to be part of this event. My name is Audrey Regis. Since 2013, the proud owner of Audrey's Confectionaries, a confectionery business located in Cebu City, Philippines. We make mango caramels. These are sweet delights, a delicacy of the Philippines. The COVID-19 pandemic has strongly affected my business, and it still is. Doing business in these times is extremely challenging. Nonetheless, I see great opportunities to build my business better than ever before. PUM Netherlands Senior Experts, the organizer of this conference, has provided me with very useful support to keep my business going during this pandemic, but also to prepare for seizing future business opportunities. I am very much looking forward to this conference and to join in and to hear how we can help businesses like mine to build back better. Thank you.
Thank you, Audrey, and welcome to all our viewers from all over the world. My name is Petra Stienen. I will be the moderator for this afternoon. Here we are. We're still all together in this storm that we call COVID, a pandemic that has touched everybody. And it has also touched people like Audrey, people like so many people PUM works with in countries all over the world, and we will meet them today. We'll discuss today how has this pandemic impacted small and medium enterprises, and how can we get out of this crisis together in an inclusive and sustainable way. We will call this building back better. Some people even say maybe building forward better. But today we will look together with you, our audience, at two key questions. What are the opportunities and challenges for our entrepreneurs to get out of this pandemic in a sustainable and inclusive way? But also, what kind of business support do these small and medium enterprise entrepreneurs want? What do they need? And how can an organization such as PUM, the senior managers, give to these entrepreneurs? We will have a keynote. We will have people zooming in with us. We will have a panel, but we also will have a beautiful conversation with the director of PUM, who is here with us, Andy Weekamp. One thing, we will have opportunities for you to participate. We have polls, and you will see also in your screen that there is the opportunity in the chat to send us questions throughout the conference, which will last until about 3 o'clock the afternoon here in The Hague. I don't know what time that is where you are. Here we are in the studio. Andy Weekamp, welcome with us. This must be such a delight to be with us here live.
Thank you indeed, it is a delight. And I would like to start to repeat also the welcome that Audrey already said. I would like to welcome you all to this conference, or clients, or partners, colleagues, friends. I'm very happy that you are here and that you participate in this conference with us today. I would like to explain something about PUM. Mm-hmm. First of all, I would like to say I'm proud to be one of the two directors of PUM. I guess that many of you already know PUM. Still, I would like to give a very brief explanation. PUM is a private sector development organization, or 1,600 volunteer experts and entrepreneurs share practical, hands-on knowledge with small and medium-sized businesses around the globe. PUM was established 43 years ago by the precursor of VNO-NCW, the largest employers organization in the Netherlands. Later on, you will see also the chairperson of VNO-NCW, who will also say some words. It is our core business to share knowledge for acceleration of growth, innovation, and competitiveness of small and medium-sized businesses. We do this in 34 developing countries and across 40 sectors. This helps entrepreneurs to increase their turnover, their profit, to create more jobs. And we like to demonstrate that there are advantages to do so in a sustainable and an inclusive way. This means that people can have decent jobs and fair incomes, have better lives now and also in the future.
I think it's always very important to almost know the journey of an organization, such an important organization as PUM. Can you tell us a little bit about how COVID has impacted your work, but also in the work you do together with your partners all over the world?
Yes, of course. I think it's a very important topic. I just want to mention we have taken the initiative to organize this conference because we have noted how badly affected many of the businesses and entrepreneurs that we work with are affected by the pandemic and all its implications. You've just heard Audrey Regis. Her company also has been badly affected. Many entrepreneurs struggle to keep their business going, to keep them open. Recovering their businesses back to exactly what it was is just not realistic. I want to emphasize that, nor desirable. And it's our aim, our mission to share peer-to-peer knowledge with entrepreneurs to prepare for a sustainable future, to increase their resilience. Resilience also against the effects, something else, but against the effects of climate change, which is expected to have even a much larger impact on our lives and business compared to the pandemic.
It's a very ambitious program you have here. I mean, what are the examples you can give us where you feel like, hey, here we already have been able to do something?
Yeah, I think that we will also later on in this conference see some films, some videos, where you can see that PUM support has been really effective. I want to mention one particular point, and that is the point of female entrepreneurs and employees who have been badly affected, even worse affected by the pandemic. And I think that there are some examples that we could give that empowerment of female entrepreneurs is really crucial to recovery.
Yeah, I read somewhere that in this pandemic, especially in the small and medium enterprises, about 63% of the women who are running enterprises have really been affected, and 52% of the men. So there is really something to do when we look at where is the most impact. And I think young people also in countries in Africa and in Asia would be I think they could be really helped by the work your organization does. One last thought, because we will see you later today as well.
Okay. I just want to mention and emphasize, I don't want to talk only about the problems. I mean, there's huge opportunities also in business opportunities in building back better. And that is something we would like to contribute to.
You know, Andy, I think today I have already been able to speak to some of the participants. I think we will have plenty of examples of the resilience of the people you work with, and also in the way they have been helped by the knowledge sharing of your experts to really build forward better, at least build back better. Thank you very much, Andy. We will see you later this afternoon in the conference. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, today we will also meet people online. We will have a brief video message of the chairwoman of the PUM Supervisory Board. Her name is Inge Thijssen, and she is also the president of the Dutch Employers Organization.
Well, the importance of building back better. I think the pandemic showed the vulnerability of business, and then, of course, building back better means that you learn the lessons from the pandemic for your business and make your business future-proof. And that may, for example, mean diversification, not longer being dependent on one product or one market. And of course, everybody knows that we are facing a climate crisis. So it would also be wise to think about what that could mean for your business as well. Well, as the chairman of PUM's supervisory board, I really know from firsthand that PUM is very capable of supporting you on this big topic of becoming future-proof.
Thank you, Inge Thijssen. We would like you to participate and also share with us your opinion on the idea of building back better. And we will do this via a poll. You can see on your screen a QR code, but also an instruction to get on Slido. You have to go to a website. You can register with a special code. Take your time. We will be able to see your responses throughout the conference, and we will also ask our keynote speaker and also one of our guests to reflect on your responses. So you will see 3 questions on, how do you feel about building back better? Do you agree with it? You say, yes, we can make it work. Or you say, I don't think this will work. Or are you somebody who wants to wait and see? You can register your vote throughout the next coming 15 minutes when we will hear our keynote speaker. And I think he will probably be with us. Is Steven Colette already online?
Absolutely, Petra.
Absolutely. Hello, Steven.
Hi, Petra. Hi, Andy.
I have this Eurovision Song Contest feeling now. 12 points for Steven Colette. Steven, we know each other, so that's why we are on first name basis. You are the Director for Sustainable Development, Economic Development, and you're also the Ambassador for Business and Development of the Netherlands Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And the next 10 minutes you will give a keynote on the important topic promoting Build Back Better, a whole sentence, for sustainable and inclusive development. Steven, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Petra. And the 12 points go to the organization, of course, and to you all. It's my pleasure to be connected to so many participants joining this conference from different corners of the world. And this underlines the importance of today's topic and the potential of digital technology. Thank you, PUM, for bringing us together. I would like to share in the next 10 minutes or so my vision on what we need to do next and how we can do it together. A vision that has been inspired by many interactions over the past months with SME-faced program partners that we invest in through Dutch development assistance, aiming to reduce poverty and inequality in low-income countries through private sector development. Last year alone, we have supported hundreds of thousands of micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises and jobs, improved working conditions for over 1 million workers, and helped exports of sustainable products and services from low-income countries worth over $600 billion. For the Dutch government, economic support to low-income countries is a priority, especially now. In many parts of the world, the COVID-19 pandemic has badly hurt companies of all kinds, but in particular, those with smaller operating margins, such as micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. Maybe you've been hit by the COVID crisis. Business and liquidity have dried up, jobs have been lost, and many companies have shut their doors, some temporarily, but many for good. Moreover, COVID-19 has enhanced inequalities. Petra already referred to that in her introduction. Those hit hardest by the impacts of the pandemic are women, youth, and poor communities. Women and youth are typically in more vulnerable job conditions, in sectors that are currently challenged by reduced demand, like the tourism or the hospitality industries, the textile and garment sectors, retail and consumer services. And when it comes to SMEs run by women or youth, they are on average less resourced, have less access to markets, information, and finance than other enterprises. Small businesses account for 2/3 of the globe's jobs and half of its GDP. Unlike the Netherlands, most developing countries are not able to provide financial support programs, reducing the competitiveness of their SMEs and affecting the households that they support. The pandemic has reversed the gains in global poverty for the first time in a generation. Ladies and gentlemen, the pandemic is far from over. Here in Holland, we allow ourselves some careful optimism for the first time in a very, very long year, thanks to the increasing rate and speed of vaccinations. Many in low-income countries do not share our fortune. Their vulnerability is our vulnerability. Solidarity is a common interest. That is more clear now than ever. We already allow ourselves to think beyond COVID-19 about the new normal. And we also do so today. And I think it's wise to do so. We need to prepare ourselves. Back to business will not be enough to address the challenges we are facing and the vulnerabilities COVID-19 has laid bare. Building back better will not do the trick either. We cannot afford to go back to a situation that is unsustainable. We will need to build better forward. We will need to use this crisis as an opportunity to make systemic improvements that will not only look at recovery needs, but that will tackle problems that predate the pandemic at the same time. We will need to invest in more robust ecosystems and address market failures in order for businesses and related production, jobs, livelihoods, and communities to develop and thrive. We will need new and more flexible business models. We need fairer, more equitable, and more sustainable economic outcomes to ensure a prosperous, resilient, inclusive, and greener world. In short, the Sustainable Development Goals. So you might ask why companies need to change their business models right now at a time when it's even difficult to keep their head above water, let alone invest in new ways of doing business. For me, there are two reasons. First, for your business to be future-proof, it ought to be shock-proof and flexible to weather different storms. Second, we will all need to internalize externalities in our business models to secure that prosperous, stable, and equal future for our children. Given public investment is steering towards green, inclusive recovery and growth, and private investment will follow suit. So this is why you see a business opportunity emerging. This is where business opportunities lie. Now, a no-brainer, in my view, is to capitalize on digital technology and data. One thing that has become clearer than ever is that access to digital skills, services, and internet have become even more important for the way we learn, work, and do business now and in the future. Technology and digitalization offer new ways to grow businesses and economies. But businesses need to make sure that changes are not too small or incremental. Otherwise, they run the risk of digitizing the past instead of innovating and transforming for the future. And we, as the public sector, need to secure access for all to narrow the digital divide. Digitalization can tap into the huge potential of women in the labor market. I am convinced that women entrepreneurship is key for resilient and sustainable economies. Women reinvest up to 90% of their income into their families. Hence, we support women leaders in e-commerce to inspire and address the challenges of the digital gender divide through UNCTAD, the UN body for trade, as part of the Dutch Digital Agenda for Trade and Development. And through our Orange Corners Innovation Fund, we invest in the success of locally developed digital products and services that offer innovative solutions to local challenges, so that more diverse and inclusive ecosystems can be established. Now, it will be probably quite difficult for SMEs to adapt, especially without sufficient support. I think that's one of the topics of the conference today. So I ask you, entrepreneurs and business representatives here today, how can we best support you in building better forward? What can the Netherlands do, and what can PUM do in particular? Now, for both resilience and transformation, knowledge is key, right? So knowledge can be an enabler for growing a business in a more sustainable way. We as the Netherlands financially support PUM to share practical hands-on knowledge with those businesses with limited access to it. What value can Dutch knowledge bring in building better forward? Well, three things come to my mind. And I think I'll align a lot with Ingrid Thijssen, the chair of PUM. First, empower. Capacitate SMEs in low and middle income countries to create a better position for themselves in global supply chains. Case in point is the garment sector, where the drop in global demand, I mean, the many closed shops in our shopping centers, left many small producers with empty hands and many jobless. Their negotiating and contracting capacity has to improve. This can be strengthened through business associations. Second, diversify. Help businesses become less dependent on single suppliers when sourcing their components. Help them diversify their products and services and their markets support female entrepreneurship. Third, connect. SMEs need strong ecosystems, including digital platforms, financial services, knowledge. The Dutch are good in fintech. We invest heavily in financial services for MSMEs in developing countries, the missing middle, as it is so often labeled. Help them connect. Connect them to new opportunities arising when the globe builds better forward, also in Europe. These are just some thoughts from my end, but I'd love to hear yours. And now, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to leave you with a personal reflection. The past year, we have all been busy coping, trying to run business as usual in very, very unusual times. Doing more video conference calls then is healthy from a neurological point of view. But have we also started adapting? Speaking to some friends from Africa, they challenged me on my coping strategy. They are far more senior than I am in terms of resilience, having faced so many economic, social, health, environmental shocks in only one lifetime, and already for generations. Are you really planning to continue to do your work in the same speed, with the same way of being productive, at the same cost in terms of personal and societal energy, they asked me? This made me pause. I am not adapting. I have come to realize more than before that learning is a two-way street. If we want to build better forward, we will need knowledge from places in the world that have learned to be far more resilient than we are. How can that be part of our agenda today? How can you transfer knowledge to us? Building better forward is by definition an international challenge that can only be addressed if we work together, building on the strength of each other, from governments to private sector, to knowledge institutions, and yes, to individual citizens, you and me. Let us not shy away from the massive challenge ahead by using each other's strong points and our innovative power to realize a new and better future from today onwards. Thank you very much.
A keynote speech, and for all the elements you gave. I was scribbling down some words. If I would make a word cloud, for me, access for all stands out. Access for all to information, to knowledge. I also liked your three elements: empower businesses, diversify. You know me, I think without gender equality, the world will never be a better place. So I really think that you made a clear point on how also women entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs, are crucial for a better future. And I think your connecting point is also a very important point. But I would like to follow up on your last point, and you haven't disappointed me, because I was waiting for this. Learning, sharing knowledge is a two-way street. And in your own personal experiences, you've worked all over the world. You were talking about your friends from Africa. What kind of knowledge can we learn from dealing with shortages and with, indeed, adapting in another way? I mean, or maybe I could summarize it in how to combat our inner capitalist, that we always need to be productive and sometimes find it difficult to slow down and look for ingenuity.
I think one thing is about expectations in life, but that's more metaphysical aspect, if you like. But it's more into the business realities of every day. I think diversification is key to spread your risks, not being depending on one business. I mean, many of the smaller businesses I come across are female-led, and they are successful because they don't bet on one product or service. Many people have several jobs, making life very uncertain, but at the same time providing the certainty of survival. And that's something to think about when we think about our, and at least my single job in the Netherlands. So that's a few lessons learned, and I think also the entrepreneurial spirit of constantly looking into opportunity rather than into challenge only, and grasp opportunity whenever you can. I think one of the things which challenges all and nowadays and is a big topic is investment and savings. We need to save to be able to invest. And at the same time, we are forced, especially in this situation, many on the globe are forced not to save and just spend. And we need to get that decent level of saving and investment back. Thank you.
Thank you, Steven. We actually had a poll running while you were talking, and we asked the participants from all over the world, or the viewers from all over the world, what they thought, how they felt about the feasibility of building back better. But we will every now and then also say build better forward, because I like that frame. We need to go forward and not back. So we asked 3 questions. We will make it work. This will never work, and I have to wait and see. And we can see now that we have quite an optimistic, forward-looking audience, because we have about 83%. I do need new glasses. 83% says, yes, we will make it work. There are a few who say, let's wait and see. And there is 1 person, maybe 10 persons, who says, this will never work. Let's look at the middle. We have to wait and see. Where can an organization such as PUM help the people in the middle? Where can they be of added value?
Now, well, maybe 2 remarks. The first, I'll keep it brief, of course, but the first one is this first category. I mean, we cannot overlook the fact that the private sector is so optimistic and is so much opportunity-based. And I think that's why I think, and I'm convinced, and I've experienced, that the private sector is vital for meeting the SDGs, right? Mm-hmm. It's not a government affair. Yeah. Now, on your question about how this, how to help the middle move about, I can clearly understand that many companies are into the survival mode at this point in time. They might not see this opportunity of moving towards a new business model or shifting business models simply because there's no means to do so. And I think their PUM can and does make a difference in taking a little bit risk away from that position by demonstrating and linking to other potential business models and futures, including also to the different means there are to receive training, to receive connections, to receive financial support.
Having been a diplomat myself before, I think it would be also interesting to look at how Netherlands embassies, you spoke about the orange corners, and how PUM and its colleagues, collaborators, clients, how can they meet each other? What can the Netherlands embassies do in this regard?
Well, I think the embassies, first and foremost, need to be humble, but they need to lead from behind, if you may. One good example is maybe that in Sudan, after the change of government, there's a big transition energy now, and that was exactly the moment when this Orange Corners facility was launched. And this is a facility, for those who don't know it, where it's like a business incubator, you could say, where startups can meet, can be trained, can be linked to finance, but also to markets. Mostly also local and international companies of a larger size. Now there, I think embassies jointly with partners, including PUM, play an important role to to connect the dots, but also, and that's not to be forgotten, also to use these case studies and also the challenges these businesses meet in their dialogues with governments. So very concretely, what we do at our embassies is that our ambassadors, whenever they meet ministers for social affairs, for economic affairs, for finance, prime ministers, they actually do a round, and we challenge them to do a round amongst the youth, amongst female entrepreneurs, to actually get the grasp of what's actually lacking in government policies. So that social dialogue, if you like, which also is very, very prominent in our policies, is a very important role that the embassy can support. Thank you.
Steven, we have to leave it at this because we have a number of people waiting to Zoom with us. It was a great pleasure to see you again, and I hope we'll have coffee soon somewhere live here at the terrace while we're opening up, because let's face it, also Dutch small and medium enterprises want to open up, and so all of us together can build better forward. Thank you, Steven, and we'll meet again.
Thank you, Petra, and thank you for also recoining that phrase, and I wish you all the best in the conference today. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this was Steven Colette from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We will now go to Geneva, where we will meet our next guest, Mr. Anders Ero. He will tell me how to pronounce his name correctly. He is the director of the Division of Enterprises and Institutions at the International Trade Center. Hello, Anders. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you very much, and greetings from Geneva. And thanks so much also for inviting me on behalf of ITC to participate in this very relevant and pertinent discussion of building forward better and bolder.
Before we start our conversation, I would like to invite the audience to participate. We will have, there is a chat function in your screen. You can ask questions and our team will transfer those questions here to a screen here. I mean, it's amazing what's happening here behind the scenes. And we will probably ask one or two of those questions to each of our guests, but we will save your questions because very often good questions will help organizations such as PUM to also improve their services and their connection. Anders, over to you. COVID. How has COVID affected the work the International Trade Center does?
It has impacted us quite a lot in as far as ITC has a main focus on supporting small and medium-sized businesses in developing countries. And we've just heard from Dr. Colette how they have been severely impacted. That has obviously also impacted our work and our reflections on how we can best support small businesses during the crisis, but also coming out of the crisis and longer term in a post-COVID world. I fully agree with what we heard from Dr. Colette, that it should not be and will not likely not be the same world we will get into. It will likely and hopefully be a greener world, a more equal world, but also a world that will be more dominated probably by post-COVID sanitary requirements and documentation of that, and also certainly a more digital world. We have seen how digital has played a key role in not only allowing us to talk today, but also helping small businesses move on during the crisis and coming hopefully also out of the crisis soon. Yeah. One thing we are keen to do is obviously to learn about how small businesses have been impacted. So what we have done is we have done a number of surveys, including this one that came out in June last year. It's called COVID-19, the Great Lockdown and its impact on small businesses, based on about 4,500 responses from nearly 140 countries. All these responses come from small and medium-sized enterprises. That has given us a good insight into how they have been impacted and what we can do to better support them.
Well, coincidentally, I read parts of the report. It's a very useful report, and I think we will unpack some of the elements that you allude to in this report and that you probably will allude to in future reports as well in our conversation. Before we do this, I am also interested in to learn more about how the International Trade Center and organizations such as PUM, business support organizations, work together.
The way we work together, I find, is a very mutual and good way of working together. Let me give an example. We work together in a project in the Gambia, in West Africa, in relation to poultry. As Dr. Colette said, a group that has been two groups have been particularly impacted by the recession, but also in general that are vulnerable in development, are women, youth, and poor communities. We address these three groups in the Gambia in our projects. And there, with PUM's kind support, so ITC, focus on private sector development, but also certainly on how we can enhance business support organization and government support. In relation to the private sector, there, together with PUM, we have provided technical and business advisory support to more than 100 young poultry farmers and small businesses via workshops, study tours, online advisory. And we have seen as a result an impressive growth among these young agripreneurs, as we can call them. Mm-hmm. So do you want me to tell in a bit more detail what we've done?
Well, we have a wonderful video after our conversation that is on the Gambia, and it's all about the poultry industry, so people will actually see images. But maybe we can look into some of the recommendations in this report. Whereas Steven Colette talked about empowering, diversifying and connecting, I saw in the report that there are 4 areas where you think we can build back better or build better forward. It's about resilience, it's digital, it's sustainable, and it's inclusion. Let's unpack them. Where do you feel that the best opportunities are for small, medium enterprises? How can business support organizations such as PUM support in these areas?
Thank you. These are very relevant questions. And yes, these indeed are the 4 headings that came out. Just as a basis, we define small business, understand small business competitiveness and competitiveness in general by compete, connect, and change. The ability to compete, connect, and change. And that comes from a number of initiatives, including diversifying markets, diversifying products or services, being better connected, being better informed, connected to markets, connected to financiers, connected to new information and new opportunities, connected to digital, but also the change, ability to innovate and constantly evolve the business, because whether you're small or large business, you will constantly need to evolve to meet demands of tomorrow. There's no doubt that demands of tomorrow, at least if you want to trade with the European Union and other markets, is that there will be a stronger focus on green, that you have green practices, that you are able to document and have credentials in relation, for instance, to sustainable production. So these are some of the areas. Yeah. The other area is digital. There's no doubt that digital will play a bigger role during the years to come for the way enterprises operate, but certainly also for the way enterprises trade. We have all seen a surge in, for instance, e-commerce, and that has really saved the day for many small businesses to reach out in a different way to other producers, to other buyers than they normally would do to other clients. But we also know that it is easier said than done. It's not just about what the small businesses are able to do, it's certainly also about the supportive business environment in which they operate, because to be able to run efficient e-commerce, it requires logistics, payment systems, ability to link up digitally, and so on.
In all of the examples you give, I hear the undercurrent of we need knowledge. You need knowledge to know more about digital and e-commerce. You need knowledge about sustainable approaches. You also need knowledge about making things more inclusive. Steven Colette mentioned that there is a two-way street here. How does the International Trade Center get knowledge from countries, can I still say the Global South? At least like the Gambia, Zambia, the Philippines. How can we learn from each other when it comes to, for example, resilience?
We do have a very close connection with our projects on the ground. ITC is basically a project-based organization. We have currently around 170 projects that's financed by a range of funders, including the governments of the Netherlands, I have to say, and thank you very much for that. So we have projects managed on the ground, and we are in a daily dialogue with these projects, and also providing our technical service and our support from Geneva. So we know quite well what's happening on the ground and what the needs of small businesses are, not just from our surveys, but certainly also from our daily dialogue. And you are right, skills and knowledge are key. I think as Joseph Stiglitz, the economist Nobel laureate, said once, that skills is a very good proxy for competitiveness, whether at enterprise level or at the national level. So ITC is about trade-related technical assistance, and that is skills. PUM is about providing skills and capacity building. That's also why we work so well together. 3 other elements of this that we also focus on and support with is access to relevant finance. This is not just a health crisis, it's also a liquidity crisis for small business because of lack of demand and other challenges in trading. It's also provision of market information, including on market entry requirements and trade barriers. There will be new trade barriers coming out of this. Each country in the world has in 2020 on average introduced 12 new barriers to trade to protect domestic markets, and also sometimes make export a bit more difficult to ensure supply domestically. The last one, which I find is extremely important, is to facilitate digital access and solutions. Most people in Africa, for instance, are still not connected to digitally. In many places, digital access, if available, is very expensive. It's also something we work on, and we work on providing innovative solutions to small businesses, and we have a dedicated program on the fast track tech that focuses on this with young entrepreneurs, and also focus on women in IT.
I think we will see in the next 10 to 20 years developments that we can't even imagine now, but I have seen in my own experiences when I worked in countries such as Egypt and in Lebanon that sometimes, and this is what I meant with almost this learning loop, and I know also from friends of mine who are investing in digitally focused cooperation, that in some countries people are even farther ahead in this digitalization, even though that at some levels there is no digital access, that at another level the digital access is way ahead of some countries. So again, I mean, how can we learn from countries that are ahead of others, and how can we connect them?
Again, a very good question. You're right, absolutely right. We see lots of very innovative solutions that comes out of, for instance, the local entrepreneur environment, digital entrepreneur environment in many of the countries we work with, for instance, in Africa. The classic example, which we have not been involved with, but is still important, is in Kenya, where we have new payment systems, a new way of paying that has really made a huge difference. Sorry, I can hear.
Sorry, I thought my microphone was off. Please go ahead.
So M-Pesa, the way of doing digital payment systems in Kenya, has spread in many other variations across Africa. There are many other ways where we learn from smart digital solutions. For instance, we have established in a prior project, also funded by the Netherlands, collaboration between entrepreneurs in Bangladesh and entrepreneurs within IT in Kenya and Uganda. And that mutual exchange across Asia and Africa was also very beneficial. Because we are involved with so many projects across the world, we also learn from good practices. For instance, seeing how e-commerce can support women entrepreneurs in craft in Central America, how we can take some of these lessons and also bring into our support to women entrepreneurs elsewhere. So there's this constant cross-learning, and Stephen Colette is absolutely right. It's not just about from north to south, it's certainly also from south to north, and how we can change our good practices in ITC as the international development community, all the different players, including PUM and ITC and many other, in providing better, more cost-efficient and greener support, including maybe also at times travel less. Thank you.
Well, we will have a beekeeper from Ethiopia later on, so that's maybe when you talked about cross-learning, I was thinking about cross-pollination, and there is some cross-pollination happening on the chat box. I see some questions on my screen. One question is, do you foresee re-establishing a more prominent role for the public sector, improving the investment climate? If so, what and how? And what could be the role of the PUM network? And I have to apologize to the person who sent the question, because I can't read the name, but I'm sure that you will be able to ask the question.
So thank you very much. Yes, there is a very big role for the public sector. I think one thing that we have learned very much coming out of this, also during the crisis, is that public policies matter an awful lot, and so do public as well as private institutions. Private institutions and public institutions, competent, innovative, and institutions that respond to the client's needs of small businesses have made a huge difference in this challenging situation. We also know that there's a world of difference between good policies and less good policies. Not every country, as Stephen Colette pointed to, have had the opportunity to provide financial support to small businesses, but there are many other ways that one can provide support to small businesses, and there adequate government policies, related institutions, public, semi-public and private, can play a huge role. So yes, there will be a bigger role, I would think, for policy. We've always at ITC acknowledged the role of policy, the role of government, and we facilitate also the related private-public dialogue, because it's key that these policies are informed by the needs of the private sector, and there happens this private-public dialogue. We see from the Netherlands and many other places in the world how this dialogue is so important for good policies and for good institution support.
Anders, we're coming to our last question, which is also from the audience. What do you think of the risk that entrepreneurs are more preoccupied with immediate survival than with long-term sustainability of their business?
I think it's a natural way of addressing risk. Because if you don't address your immediate survival, there will be no longer term future for your business.
Yeah.
So we do understand why entrepreneurs do that. And short term, it's very much for small businesses to focus on becoming more resilient and robust and better risk management. I know it's much easier said than done. It's about diversifying products, diversifying markets to the extent possible. Longer term, as we also heard earlier speakers mention, we very much subscribe to the notion that overall development should be more inclusive of women, youth, and poor communities.
Yeah.
Should be greener and should be less risk. And in relation to risk, which is key, because risk is not something that small businesses can manage on their own. They address risk in their business environment. Risk is something that public policies can help address, but it's certainly also something that international value chains, we haven't spoken so much about that yet, should help address, because a lot of small businesses, particularly maybe more the medium-sized ones, are involved with international value chains, whether in clothing or agriculture or shoes or furniture, whatever.
Anders, I have to interrupt you here because indeed, if we had more time, there would be so many more topics we could discuss. But one of the things you were saying as an answer to the last question about short-term, medium-term and long-term, I think Stephen Collette also mentioned to savings. And this, of course, I understand that in many countries this is not always possible. Here we say that you have to repair your roof when the sun is shining. And I hope that the sun will be shining for so many small and medium business entrepreneurs. And I'm sure that they can benefit from all the good work that the International Trade Institute is doing and the International Trade Center is doing. And I'm sure that the cooperation between you and PUM will be very, very beneficial also to these entrepreneurs. Thank you very much and have a wonderful rest of the day.
Thank you very much for having us on.
Ladies and gentlemen, we were already talking about the Gambia and about poultry, and we have an amazing video. I will not explain what we're going to see. You see for yourself. And if there are any questions about this, ask us in the chat and we will come back to it. We will have a video which gives an example of a PUM project. There are 1,500 of these projects in all over the world from before COVID time. Let's look at the video from the Gambia.
The poultry sector is very important for Gambia. It provides cheap meat for the local population, and having said that, it also provides work and employment and income for the young people.
In their quest to help the young poultry farmers of Gambia, PUM started a cooperation with International Trade Center.
PUM's expertise is critical in the support for the poultry sector in the Gambia. So PUM provided quite a number of training programs.
What we do in our program is we support those young people to how to start a small enterprise, in this case a poultry farm, how to manage the chickens, how to keep them healthy, how to provide good food security.
And the program already proved to be successful. Gambian poultry farmers are interested.
As we speak, we have over 100 participants in our program. So 100 farmers we helped, and they have their own farm. And it can be a farm of 50 chickens, but the biggest one has a farm of 60 or 80,000.
We've seen how these people have actually succeeded, multiplied. Some of them have multiplied up their capacity by 5 times, 6 times, 10 times as a result of the knowledge gain, as a result of the PUM support.
A very big part of the poultry production goes to the tourist industry of Gambia. But in 2020, suddenly everything changed.
The impact of COVID-19 for the Gambia was a disaster, really a disaster. The tourist industry literally collapsed. As a result, also the farmers didn't know what to do with their production. So a lot of farmers had to close down.
One of the poultry farmers struggling to survive is Modu.
is because of the COVID-19, because things are very expensive considering how much we are getting the chicks now, and then how much we're used to getting it, the cost of feeding as well, and then coupled with a lot of restriction when it comes to importing some of the materials that we use, because as we know that in the Gambia here we are not yet self-sufficient when it comes to supplying all the materials that we needed in the chicken production.
The poultry sector in Gambia is highly dependent on imports. COVID-19 clearly shows how vulnerable the sector is, and that is why PUM strives to reform the poultry sector in Gambia.
Our aim is to be self-sufficient and not to be reliant on importation. I have now a team of about 10 poultry experts, and together we transfer our knowledge to the poultry farmers. But not only the farmers, also to the local veterinarians, to the local laboratory analysts, to the local entrepreneurs who build chicken houses, to the local feed mills who make chicken food. So that's how we transfer the knowledge. We develop the sector-wide, not only focus on that particular farmer, no, we focus on the total country, the total sector. That makes it sustainable.
One thing is for sure, the training program of PUM brings hope for the poultry sector in Gambia.
My final message to PUM is just to thank them, because over the past year we have learned a lot from them, and then we want to continue learning from them so that we can also transfer the knowledge to the upcoming generation as well.
The COVID will go away, and we will assist as PUM, we will assist and support the Gambian young farmers to build back better.
Yes, what a beautiful example of what Anders Aero was just talking about. Anders from the International Trade Center, a poultry project in the Gambia, a really beautiful example of so many local organizations that can benefit from the work of PUM and other business support organizations to build back forward, or build back better. I'm getting confused here. Ladies and gentlemen, we will allow you to take a break, to take a coffee, a glass, or something. Come back at 2 o'clock The Hague time, so that's basically in 7 minutes. And while we are taking a break, if you have time, also enjoy listening to the music of the Dutch percussionist Yannick van der Beek. And Yannick has received his music education in Bamako in Mali, and has worked in various African and Latin American, with many African and Latin American artists. He has a new album. This is a bit of a commercial break for the young musician. It's called Bubbling. He works on this album with the French producer Mamibi and Malian singer Fatim Kognate, and he brings together with them African sounds into new sonic territories like Afrofunk and electronic music. And this album will be released on the 25th of June. This was the commercial break for Bubbling of Yannick ter Beek. Enjoy the break. We'll be back at 2 o'clock, which is in 6.5 minutes. Good afternoon, everybody. I just heard from the amazing team here on the floor in The Hague that we have more than 250 people from all over the world watching with us. Imagine how sustainable this is. You didn't fly into The Hague, which might be a pity, but you're all watching from your own room, office, where you are. Welcome. For those of you who have just tuned in, this is the PUM conference on Building Back Better After COVID. We are looking at key questions such as how can we find opportunities and challenges for entrepreneurs to build back better, but also how can business support be given to these small and medium enterprise entrepreneurs. We have another hour ahead of us with a beautiful conversation, with a panel, with videos, but also with you, the audience. You can participate in a poll. You can see it on your screen. We will have a few questions for you, and you can actually see the instructions on your screen. And we would like you to ask or to answer our questions on what type of small business support do businesses need to build back better. You will see the poll in Slido. Business environment reform, market access and development, access to finance, capacity building, and policy and advocacy. And you will notice in the conversations we had and we will have that these are elements of the discussion as well. Also, we have the opportunity for you to ask questions in the chat. We will not be able to answer all of those questions, but we will save those questions, and the team of PUM will look at those questions and see how they can learn also from the ideas behind those questions. But without much further ado, we're going to Zurich to meet Nicholas Koloff, who is the Executive Director of the Archidius Foundation, and we will have a conversation on the topic of supporting small businesses to build back better. We agreed to be on first name basis. Nicholas, are you there?
I am. Thank you very much for the invitation to be here.
It's wonderful to have you. Nicholas, the same question for you. How has COVID-19 impacted the work of you and your organization?
So Archidius is a private family foundation. We work with about 50 to 60 business support organizations in Africa and Latin America primarily, of which PUM is one and a long-standing partner of ours, to provide basically two sorts of support. One is knowledge and technical skills to improve the resilience and growth of your business, and then access to finance, usually associated also with non-technical support. How has COVID impacted? Well, as we've heard, it's had significant negative impact. Probably on about 80% of businesses that we've worked with have either stalled in their growth or shrunk. Interestingly, about a fifth, of course, have grown, and some have grown very substantially and find themselves actually addressing the challenges of rapid growth because of the sector that they're in. And of course, that's incredibly positive. And the business support organizations themselves have had to adapt to the digital world very quickly. Some were already using platforms and digital means for delivering their systems, and others were basically working face-to-face. And so they had to adapt very quickly to how do we continue to support our entrepreneurs in this time of crisis as they move forward.
Stephen Collad, earlier in this conference, talked about how COVID has added to poverty and inequality. And at the same time, we see that one of the ways out of the COVID-19 crisis, or a way to deal with the COVID-19 crisis, is, I would almost say, an inclusive, resilient, sustainable digital approach. And especially when it comes to digital, it feels that this could also increase the inequality because some people have more finances and access to digital means than others. How do you look at this paradox?
Yes, it's a real paradox. We produced a report recently on helping business support organizations go digital. But one of the things we counseled is that there will be different pathways for different kinds of support, depending precisely on who is your market. So, for example, you take a country like Guatemala. Most people in Guatemala have a smartphone. The problem is not that they have a smartphone, but that actual access to loading and unloading data is incredibly expensive. So even when you have very significant penetration of the hardware, the use of the software and the financing of that is very hard. So as we go forward, if we're thinking about how to adapt our offering to support businesses in a digital age, it will be very much not one solution fits all. Some will go down the pathway of greater digitalization. Others will have to think about, actually, no, that's inappropriate because face-to-face engagements still remain very important. One of the things we've heard about already is the importance of entrepreneurs being able to network with each other. And yes, there's a certain amount of networking you can do digitally and online, as we all know. But also there's just that serendipity of being in the same room and discovering, yeah, you have the same challenge. Well, how are you going to face that challenge? Somebody has learned how to export already their product and they want to help another entrepreneur do likewise. And those sorts of serendipitous connections, which are very important for helping businesses grow, are something that also will have to somehow continue when we can get back face-to-face around the water cooler.
Yeah, I will make the viewers from the Arab world very happy to quote my favorite proverb, ربما صدفة خيرا من ألف مئات. coincidence is better than 1,000 appointments. And I think this is exactly what you mean. Sometimes coincidence can help us forward, but sometimes we need to make an appointment as well. We actually have a poll which I think could be very helpful also in our conversation. Let's look at the results of the poll, because I think when I look at the 5 elements we have in our Slido poll, I don't know whether you can see them as well, Nicholas. We can see that the most popular one is business environment reform. Could you, Marcus access, oh well, no, that's actually not true. It's Marcus access and development. So can you elaborate a little bit on how you work on this specific item on our poll?
Yes, so one of the things that we've helped our partners work on enterprises to think about how to improve their ability to, for example, work with supermarkets in Central America. So, so how do you go? How, as a small business, can you actually negotiate with Walmart in Central America to get your product in their shops? How can you think about, and at what point should you think about exporting? We know that market access to exporting, once you start doing that, will significantly improve both the productivity and the revenue of your business. Mm-hmm. There was a great a study done with Egyptian carpet makers, and the half of the carpet makers that were given access, actually in this case the French market, improved both the quality of their product and the sales by 10% year on year for the 3 years of that access. And the people still producing for the local market didn't. So export can pull you into having to think about many things about how to improve the quality of a product, the structure of a business, its scale and size. So we've a number of our partners work in that space. There's a wonderful example of somebody who started as a micro client in Nicaragua producing her mother's biscuits. And then she was helped with technical assistance and access to finance in this case to go to a more industrial production of these biscuits, and they're now indeed in sale, not only in 3 supermarket chains in Central America, and she's gone from herself being the sole employer to having 30 to 40 employees, and beginning also to diversify her product range. So it's those kinds of journeys that we help people do by building an ecosystem of support which takes people from ideation right the way through to growth and scale, and tries to tackle some of the key challenges, market access, finance, knowledge and skills, in order to achieve their ambitions.
When I look at our results on the screen, what do you think is the most crucial type of small business support to build back better? It's also interesting, I think, to look at the other end of the scale, that people rate policy and advocacy a bit lower. And I'm wondering, how do you see this? Because, I mean, I'm a former diplomat, I'm into politics, I'm also very much into advocacy. And sometimes I feel that maybe there should be more sense of urgency when we're talking about SMEs in developing countries.
Yeah, and I think part of it obviously depends on the audience, and because advocacy and policy is something that individual entrepreneurs themselves can't particularly work on. It's dependent on business associations, aggregate organizations, chambers of commerce and others to work on. And of course, the results are not immediately apparent to an individual business, but they can be incredibly apparent to the system as a whole. So, for example, in Uganda, we've actually been working with the tax administration to improve not the regulation as such, which are relatively good, but the implementation of how that regulation then gets carried over into interactions with individual businesses. And you know, you may not notice that as an effect as an individual business immediately, but over time it may have a very significant role to play. Again, many business development services in places like the Netherlands and Switzerland are actually seen as public goods, and they're delivered with a degree of public subsidy. This isn't the case yet in many emerging economies. And so public policy then has a role in helping governments to see the value of business development services and to provide resources. So again, in Guatemala, the government of Guatemala has decided they should have a business development center in each region. They've decided they shouldn't develop them themselves. They should outsource that to NGOs and social organizations, but they are providing resources that have made those institutions more resilient and better able to provide services for the entrepreneur.
Well, you are right, indeed. We don't know who is our audience, but I think by your answer on a lower percentage of acknowledgement of the importance of policy and advocacy, you are a brilliant advocate for the importance of business support organizations, especially in times of crisis. And I can hear in all of the answers you gave and also of our previous speakers that the undercurrent is the importance of knowledge and sharing knowledge. And now, to get out of this crisis and to build back better or to build better forward, what kind of knowledge do you think is really of utmost importance to share with entrepreneurs in developing countries?
Well, I think, as we've all known, think about, is your supply chain secure? Many businesses have been significantly impacted where closing down has affected their supply chain. Think about diversification. Think about how do you finance your business through your own earnings. So often when you ask people about access to finance, people immediately start talking about investors and banks. And actually businesses primarily grow through husbanding their own cash flows and their own resources and utilizing those to grow. And so getting better and more thoughtful about that, because as we've seen, there's only, as soon as COVID broke out, liquidity collapsed, and so businesses are able to have richer cash flows, better managed, better thought through, have survived more effectively, and thinking about certainly also this sense of diversifying your marketplace and thinking about sales in terms of the value you bring, not simply the price, can also change the way in which your business begins to grow and develop.
Nicholas, I can see the team here taking notes. There are so many important elements in your answer. It's really, really helpful. We're almost ending our conversation, and I'm looking at the team whether there are questions in the chat that I could ask you, but I do have a question. I mean, you are a social entrepreneur, huh? And you're talking about serendipity, and I think I looked at also at your CV. I would almost say, if you had a magic wand, what would you think a social entrepreneur in small, medium enterprises, what kind of advice would you really want to give that you think would bring people back on track?
Well, two things really. So one is get yourself a good mentor. There's really good evidence that having somebody who's been through it before and has done it successfully can make a huge difference to enabling a person to just get a sense of space and direction. And again last year, it was really apparent that businesses who had somebody to just actually listen to them, actually, as they had to think about how to adjust and go forward. But also, it's the same in when you're faced with the opportunities of growth and development. So it's not just about when a business is challenged, but when it's really facing really interesting opportunities. And so that would be the first point. And the second point would be the one thing that and it shouldn't sound terribly surprising, but the one thing that makes the most impact on your business's success is your focus on sales. And sales is not marketing. Sales is actually knowing your customer and selling to them, and selling driven by the value of what you have to offer, not simply the price at which it's being offered. And we looked at this extensively in a very extensive trial in Central America with thousands of businesses involved, and it was sales that really, really mattered.
Get yourself a good mentor. I definitely, I would almost add to this, dare to ask for help. One last question, which comes on our screen. Knowing PUM as partner organization, what would you recommend to PUM in terms of adapting its approach to these new circumstances and requirements? And a brief answer, because we have to go to the next item.
Refine how you do it digitally, because you can make it reach more people with less expense, though it's always face-to-face is great and advantageous. And keep focusing on what you're good at, really, in terms of, the technical assistance, connecting somebody who's really done this well professionally in the Dutch context, and being able to transfer that knowledge can make a huge difference, because PUM is one of our most cost-effective and most impactful partners. So keep doing what you're doing.
Well, it's almost as if I'm reading the evaluation the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs made on PUM, which was also definitely almost an A or maybe an A+. So thank you for this comments. And Nicholas, thank you very much for your time and for being with us. You gave us an enormous amount of information, knowledge, and this is what PUM and this meeting is all about: sharing knowledge, connecting to people, and empowering all of us to get out of this crisis and to build a better future together. Thank you, Nicholas, and hope to see you sometime live here in The Hague or anywhere else in the world. Have a nice afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have another video for you of a project that is provided, where support is provided by PUM. It's a video where we had to work a little bit with photography and voices, and it's from tourism. It's about tourism in Nepal.
Tourism for Nepal is the most important source of income, because it's a country without natural resources, laying between China and India, and they have, of course, the beautiful Himalaya, but also other regions with much nature and culture.
The past decades, millions of tourists have visited Nepal. But in 2020, disaster struck in the form of COVID-19.
It destroyed the total tourism sector, because all tourists stayed away, and even the people from Nepal itself, who are tourists too, of course, stayed away because they have to stay at home, and because there is no income, people do not have money to pay for tourist attractions. So it's already 1.5 years now that there is no income for tourism anymore.
COVID-19 is a huge disaster for Nepal. But according to Frida Hengeveld, there are also new opportunities.
I think it will be a challenge for them to start again with tourism activities, but maybe in a little bit other way than they did before. For instance, if they learn how to clean a street, they put everything in the river. But tourists see also the river, so they see the plastic that's in the river. So it's our knowledge and our experience our experts have that we put in, on this moment, remote coaching.
Remote coaching is the new way to prepare the tourist sector of Nepal for a post-COVID-19 period. And this is why PUM started an online program for sustainable development.
Well, the first thing to do to be more sustainable is waste management. What you bring up to the mountain, you have to get back also. Well, the second one is the local to local. In Nepal, there are huge challenges to organize that the farmers use their vegetables to bring them to the restaurants and the hotels that are for tourists. And our experts can help them to make menus that tourists like with vegetables from Nepal. And the third one, that's more about community tourism. And in the communities we see that the women, especially the women, are busy in creating business in this way. They're renting their houses, they're letting tourists sleep in their houses, and the only thing they have to build is a toilet and a shower. And then people can go in there and after a few days go back to a hotel and have some luxury, but people will like the experience they have in that communities.
The ambitious online program will help the Nepalese to build back better. According to PUM expert Frida Hengeveld, this is essential for the future of the tourist sector in Nepal.
Well, I think tourists want a clean and a pure experience. That's the new future for tourism. It's everywhere in the world, but also in Nepal. And in Nepal they have possibilities because it's such a pure country. And I think the experience once in your life to see the sun coming up, shining on the Himalaya, then you know why you want to go to Nepal.
Isn't this beautiful, the way her face lights up when she talks about the sun shining on the Himalaya? I hope that PUM and all its volunteers, all its experts can be the sun in your life as well. And we have some amazing people here at my table and also in the Zoom who I think are also the sun in the life of many people they work with. I like the metaphor of sun and being sun in somebody's life. We have a panel of 5 eminent speakers, experts, and we will discuss together their perspectives, practical perspectives, on building back better. And you have noticed that we also say building back forward. We will also have people in the Zoom. I hope they're all connected, but we will start here first with Edith van der Spruit. It's the same question I ask everybody. Tell us very briefly who you are and how has COVID impacted the work you do in the context of PUM?
I'm Edith van der Spruit and I'm already with PUM since 2012. I started as a textile designer, an expert, and now I'm the country coordinator for Sri Lanka. And I'm doing this as a volunteer next to my normal job. And how did it affected Sri Lanka? Because that was already, it was second in a row crisis. They had the Easter bombing 2019. They were just starting the recovery. And 2020, the pandemic struck very hard. And up till now, they are still in a total lockdown. And you cannot even go abroad. You cannot go to your enterprise. You have to stay at home.
So a huge impact. We will unpack the details a little bit later, but a huge impact. I am looking at the team and I'm wondering whether Els from Kenya is also with us.
Hello, I'm here, yes.
Hello, good afternoon, Els. Can you tell us as well who you are, where are you? This makes us jealous when we see where you are. And how has COVID impacted your business? In brief, because we will unpack.
Yes, I work and live on a farm in a small village close to Nairobi. We grow and sell vegetables, and we also welcome a lot of visitors to our farm. Schools also. Yeah, and that part of the business completely went down last year.
But I do hear a few noises. Those are not your guests, I guess.
I think you hear the chickens.
The chickens. Well, they could be your guests as well. Thank you, Els. We'll come back to you later. Then we're going to Ahmed Tounali. Welcome here in the studio, here in The Hague.
Thank you very much for having me.
And tell us a little bit about who you are and what your business is.
My name is Ahmed Tounali. I work for Rijkswaan. Rijkswaan is a company in the breeding, sales and production of vegetable seeds. Well, how COVID has impacted us, I will talk on behalf of my own territory where I work. That's the Asian territory. our first concern was how do we get seeds to our customers? I mean, they have to grow, they have to sow.
Yeah.
Another problem was, the people are not having a market, laborers to pick the fruits and take it to the market. How do we help them? And another major concern for us, but also for the farmers, was how do we bring our knowledge to them? Because normally we have physical farm visits where we tell them how to grow, how to irrigate, etc. And that was simply not possible. So we really had to switch very fast in thinking to get to where we want to be.
Out of curiosity, and also because I don't know, that's how things start.
Mm-hmm.
How do you ship or how do you send seeds? In boxes, in bags? I mean, how big are...
It very much depends on the type of product or the type of seed. Agricultural seeds is of course more volume, but our seeds is mostly for small farms, smallholder farms, which goes with airlines.
Okay, with airlines, not in small, precious, like diamonds in bags.
No. It's not that small.
Not that small.
No.
Okay, thank you. We'll come back to you later as well. And now we're going. I like this. We're traveling. We're going to. We're going to Ethiopia, and that's where Emebet Dejene is. Hello. How are you?
Hello. I'm good. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Emebet Dejene. I am a beekeeper, started as a small beekeeping company working with more than 600 beekeepers who lives in UNESCO listed forest area. Your question regarding the impact of COVID is two sides. One, the market side, because of lockdown we couldn't export to USA, and the European market because of their demand of certification, which was also mentioned by Nicolas. How we did with that was thinking about product diversification, and I think we have also to invest in supply management strategy and new product development and supply management.
Thank you, Emebet. We will come back to you later as well. And then we're flying to the Philippines digitally. We already met Audrey. Audrey, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here. Hello.
Hello,
Good evening,
Audrey.
everyone.
Hello. Thank you very much for your beautiful opening of this conference. For the people who haven't seen it, we are recording it, and you can rewind and go back to the beginning. But now we have you here live. Audrey, tell us, who are you, what do you do, and how has COVID impacted your business?
Yes, I'm Audrey. I am the owner of Audrey's Confectionaries. We have actually transformed our famous dried mangoes and made it funky and coated it with salted caramel, dark chocolate, pistachios, and cashew nuts. And these are available nationwide in my country. I've exported also to Japan, to America, New York in particular. It's also available in Amazon, USA, but the COVID-19 pandemic has pretty much really strongly affected that despite I'm available locally in more than 74 outlets, sales is not happening. Even to replenish the stores outside of Cebu City within the Philippines cannot be done because cargo cost is too much.
Thank you, Audrey. I think all of you have given a picture of the impact of COVID on your business, on the people you work with. And of course, we could talk about this for another hour and not get any further in this moment, because this conference is very much on how can the exchange of knowledge and the work of PUM enable the people you work with to build back better or to build better forward. But to do that, you need to maybe delve in a little bit deeper in what are the things we need to tackle. And Edith, when I look at you said that in Sri Lanka there is a complete lockdown. Can you sketch in 1 or 2 minutes what is the impact of the lockdown on the people you work with in the garment industry?
Yeah, nobody can go to their plants, so everybody has to stay at home. So it's very difficult to have contact with the. Yeah, you contact them, but they are at home, so they cannot experiment. They cannot do anything in their plant. But what is so special? I think there are major issues also that's also not from the Sri Lankan entrepreneurs, but it's also coming from the West, because major retail suppliers, they have withdrawn their orders.
And most of us haven't bought any clothes over the past year.
But they have withdrawn their orders, and they were already made sometimes. But when they withdraw their orders, so there was no employment anymore. So
and
what
who has the most impact?
The most impact goes to of course, to the men and the women, but the women is more important, because what also Stephen said from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, he also mentioned that already, 90% of their earnings is going to the community, the family, so it's also impacting a next generation. And when they are asking now for a discount, that goes off their wage. And imagine making a t-shirt. A t-shirt making is only 40 cents. All the marketing influencers who are paid here, that's 12 euros, 30 times the 40%. Yeah. And then still the shop. So it's when you ask a discount, yeah, imagine that's not coming out of the influencers, that's going down from the 40 cents.
I'll come back to you on how to move forward and also how to share knowledge to improve this. I'm going to Els in Kenya. Can you tell us a little bit more about what the consequences are for your business and the people you work with of the impact of COVID?
Yeah, before COVID, we were busy almost on a daily basis to welcome schools to the farm, to welcome families from Nairobi to the farm, and that all stopped. So that meant a lot less work for us. We have 70 people working with us on the farm. So suddenly, and we sell vegetables to hotels and restaurants, and that also all went down. So that just meant that we were faced with a choice: are we going to send all these people home that work with us to?
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to Ahmed here, and I think you get some mansplaining in the back. I don't know whether it's the rooster or a chicken, but it sounds a bit like a very nice noise. Ahmed. Yes, always the last word. Ahmed, how can you also delve in a little bit deeper on how your clients, how the people you work with are affected?
Well, what initially happened, besides the whole labor problem of not being able to pick, that was luckily a temporary problem. Soon the world opened up again. What we did see was indeed the exporters suffered a lot, so they had to find other outlets. Luckily, they were able to, of course with the help also of us, to get in touch with more retailers, to get their produce to them. Later on, what we saw was that online sales really picked up. So we also we already had started with that, but I think the silver lining of this pandemic is that it sped up the whole process. Yeah. So digitalization went very fast, online sales increased. Will it still stay online? Partly, yes. It will not be maybe 100% online, but I think online will have an important part of the sales of vegetables in Asia, which also helps, I think, the farmers in the longer term to have more tailor-made productions for the market. So not just produce whatever they think they should produce for the market, but produce actually what people want.
I really can feel your energy here at the table. You're like these entrepreneurs who said in the Slido, we can make this work. We will go to the solutions later. Absolutely. Because we will also go to Emebet in Ethiopia. Emebet, I know that your business has been impacted as well. Can you tell us a little bit and also move maybe as Ahmed did a bit to things you saw changing for the better during the pandemic?
Okay. Yeah, the impact was, first the order was cancelled. That is impacted hugely. So we had to take, and we couldn't travel locally to support our suppliers. to get them inside in the in-market basic genuine requirement of food safety standard, which we are doing all the way around. So that those two things, that was challenging for us. But while thinking about COVID brought also a good thing is everyone was on the same page. Big companies, small companies, suppliers, businesses, we all were affected. So that means we had to think about how to overcome those challenges. That brought us in thinking about diversification, coming to new products. And that is what we were doing, and also the purpose of our company. Why do we exist? The higher level of the company. It gave us time to think about it, and the environment piece is very vital for the ecosystem and for our food security. So that the whole aspect of beekeeping up to the end product, we had to review. We were forced to review and find a strategy about how to repack our program, and that was what we did. In this process, we needed partners like PUM and others.
We
So
will,
that was,
Emma, we will come to that in the next round,
Okay.
because obviously we will have to know how we can learn from each other. This is the whole meaning of this conference. Audrey, you already said that your sales dropped, your export dropped. Anything else you need to share with us? What was your biggest nightmare, but also when did you wake up and thought, maybe there is a solution here?
Yes, that's where PUM Sylvia, my mentor, actually helped me a lot. She popped up in my life at the right time. And Nicholas is right by saying, get a good mentor. So I was lost, and she gave me a direction. While there are no sales happening, might as well fix the company image. And she did that by improving the content of my website. So now I have a very professional, I'm very proud of the content, even down to the photo. She directed it how it should be taken. She gave me the direction to make my website. So I'm also getting sales online right now through the website.
And this is online sales in the Philippines or also from outside? Because actually your products sound delicious, so maybe we can order some here.
Oh, thank you. It's available in the US market through Amazon, but my website is now limited to Philippines because of the high rates on cargo.
Yeah.
I can send it to you, but it's going to take so long.
No. I was making a little bit of a joke. I know that. Thank you. No, Edith and Ahmed, you're here at the table when we're listening to Audrey, to Els, to Emabeth. They're already coming up with solutions. Also, you came up with a solution. In your case, in Sri Lanka, you sketched us how horrible actually the discrepancy is between what women get when they make a garment and what we pay here and what the marketing, the influencer gets. There is a real inequality there. That's very sad. Yeah. But let's look forward. What helps you to improve the situation?
I think, and that's also a role of PUM. They can give the knowledge and support that we have to look at the whole supply chain. Mm-hmm. We cannot give only technical support on one entrepreneur because it's depending on the supply chain. When we see people here in front of the shops, that means that they are producing it. Mm-hmm. So look at the whole supply chain, mm-hmm. and what we have seen during the pandemic, the last year, that people who were making less but high quality products, and they asked for a fair price and they got a fair price, they were innovative and they were doing good. So we have to learn what they were doing, and that's everybody has to pay a fair price for fair products. So that's very important. So look from the maker to the waste, because that makes it really building better forward.
Yeah. I like the word fairness. It's very close to solidarity, isn't it?
fairness, solidarity, and also gender equality. Make it also in the core of the recovery of the employment. That's very important.
You have to explain it to me. What do you mean with this? Make it in the core of the recovery of the employment?
We heard already a lot this afternoon about what women means for the community, what women means for the next generation. And when we are not really looking into that it has to be fair. So fair means on the whole, fair on the product, fair on the wages, fair on the transport. So maybe we have to make locally products that can even be better and fairer than all the shipping and aviation what we are doing now.
It's very clear to me that PUM already has enormous knowledge on this whole concept of fair trade and sustainable trade, but you feel that there can be done more?
Now, we can look really on the whole supply chain. Mm-hmm. So when you are in Sri Lanka or whatever, where we are working, when you are there, look also where is it product made of? How can we use it circularly? What about the waste? So look at it in a completely holistic way. That's very important.
Thank you. We're going to Els again in Kenya. I'm wondering whether the rooster wants to... Yes! It's amazing. I mean, thank you very much for literally, it's not couleur locale, but it's the local noises, the local voices. We always have to take into account voices from every country. Els, what has helped you in moving forward with your business in this time of crisis?
Well, the idea that COVID teaches us, this whole pandemic teaches us that your own health is very important, and the realization that we're all connected, and that it's very important to understand your relationship with the environment. So what we are doing, growing and selling vegetables and teaching visitors about the environment, we thought, we are on a good path here. We should just focus on continuing what we're doing, and because that's exactly what this pandemic is teaching us. So we just started selling vegetables in a different way, not to hotels and restaurants, but to more to individual households, and we decided that okay, now we don't have any visitors at the moment to the farm. At least we can decide that this is what we need to focus on more. That pandemic will pass, and we're on a good path on environmental education.
I can actually hear in your story and also in the story of Emabet that knowing what your purpose is a way to move forward. And of course, this needs sometimes some mentorship as well. So I think this is where experts from PUM can come in as well. And I will go to Ahmed here. Do you recognize this?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah? I think a nice example, what I can give from our work is Indonesia.
Yeah.
To come out of this crisis, a nice cooperation with PUM, an expert from PUM, I think with a background in retail. We know farmers, so there was a farmers association, I think it's called Alitifak. It's a group of farmers, of 270 farmers, smallholder farmers.
Yeah.
We successfully managed to connect them to a retailer in Indonesia with the help of the retail expert. And instead of producing what the farmer thought they should produce, they actually produced what the retailers want, what sells best. So at the same time you have added value for the farmer because he gets a better price for his product.
Yeah.
There is no middleman in between. There is a direct link between retail and a growers union. There is less waste because you produce what people want, so it's bought and not being discarded. So all in all, it was a win-win situation for all parties involved.
Yeah, so that's the silver lining to a horrible time, that you can do things,
Absolutely.
that you have to do things in a different way.
Yes, and I think also, if I may say so, is that this whole pandemic also has revealed in some countries the soft spots in the system, which of course now in the future we have to work on.
Yeah.
Of course we cannot do this by ourselves, we have to do this with governments, educational institutions, to make the system better so that it functions better in the future.
Yeah, and
for all involved.
The financial the cash flow, and to actually make sure that you have some liquidity, I think is for all small entrepreneurs one big shock.
Absolutely, yes.
To save for a rainy day. Audrey, I'm coming back to you again. Thank you very much. It's Amabet. The team is amazing. I think I'm just too enthusiastic about her sweets, but you're making honey, and you're also diversifying in your products. What has helped you to move forward, to improve while the crisis was happening?
Come again, please.
What has helped you? How has PUM, for example, been able? You are, of course, also a representative of PUM, but how can PUM be instrumental in helping people to build better forward?
Yeah, in our case, in two ways. One for our own company, thinking about product diversification, and in the broader perspective of beekeeping, we have in Ethiopia 6 million people who keep bees, more than 6 million people.
Wow.
And PUM is working now together with, collaborating with a vocational institution and also another private company, beekeeping and honey production company. So they are trying to design a system in order to build a capable supply base for not only for my own company, but in broader perspective. But for my own company, PUM is very helpful in developing new products. That means candies. That is in line with honey as well, the sweets, and we can create jobs. And the expert helped us to prepare a recipe, to select machineries, the whole production line. It is online coaching, and it's very interesting and also very helpful to think forward, not instead of sitting down, how can I solve? But now we have hands-on recommendations. We have weekly meetings. It's very, very, very
And this
helpful.
is all taking, sorry for interrupting, this is all taking part online? This is working for you, online coaching?
Yeah. Yes.
Wonderful.
Very helpful, very good, very good. Sometimes we have internet problems, but we will somehow solve that. So because experts are very, they can anticipate in the local situation. Two experts are helping us now, one for the packaging, one for recipes and product development. So I am in excellent position now.
Yeah, I can see that you're... I'm sorry for, Amabet, I will have to go to Audrey, but I can see that you're really happy with the help you're getting. I'm going to Audrey in the Philippines. Audrey, you already said get yourself a mentor. Earlier this afternoon, we were talking about this learning loop. It's not only, it's sharing knowledge. So what would you give to PUM as an advice? How can we learn from your experience, or how can other people learn from your experience?
Oh, I'm happy that you actually asked me that question, because I wanted to put a chat to ask me that question already if you weren't going to ask me that question. Because actually my products are sweets, and I realized during this COVID-19, where there's no travel, no tourism at all, and because most of the people only have a budget for essentials, I actually diversified. So I wanted to keep my employees. So what I did was I created the new product during the hard lockdown. I created vegetable samosas. So just like our friend here from, is it Ethiopia, ma'am?
Yeah.
Yes, I also now sell vegetables, and good job, right?
Yeah,
so
very well
my
done.
vegetables are frozen, and it's vegetable samosas sold frozen in the groceries.
Thank you very much,
that's
Audrey.
keeping us afloat now.
I once read a book here in the Netherlands about whether the glass is half full or half empty, that a real entrepreneur will ask, where is the tap to fill the glass? So I think you're all true entrepreneurs. You always find a solution to move forward. I'm going here to my guest at the table. For you, the closing comments. Ahmed, what is the takeaway you have from this afternoon? What surprised you? What are you taking with you?
I think most important is not being afraid to change, adopting new techniques, exploring new ways to sell your product, whether it's digital or physical. And most important indeed, to do it together. Sharing knowledge, because as long as you share knowledge, the knowledge will grow and everybody will benefit from it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And what about you?
No, well said. But I also said, don't be afraid to ask for help, because we all need help in these times. So don't be afraid and learn from each other. And also, but I also heard that women entrepreneurs is very important, because women entrepreneurs, like said door Stephen, that makes the community a better place, and that's so important for our next generation. So that's very important.
Women and youth are more than half of the population, so
yes,
yeah.
that's not a group.
No, that's absolutely not a group. And of course, there's a lot of diversity among women and youth. Edith, Ahmed here, and Els, Emabet, and Audrey, thank you all for being with us. And we're going to the last video of our conference, a video which was filmed in Zambia, where PUM supports a vocational training institute. Let's watch the video.
The Victoria Falls in Zambia are majestic to look at. But these falls are also one of the major power suppliers of the country.
Zambia's electricity largely is dependable on hydropower.
The energy supply in Zambia is not very good. It's not very reliable, especially if you compare it with Holland.
During the hot months, Zambia usually has a lot of blackouts.
So there is an opportunity for renewable energy, especially solar energy.
To increase the knowledge of solar energy in Zambia, PUM found a partner in Libis, a vocational training institution.
We can make a difference. We have the experts, we have the knowledge. So in cooperation with Libis, we made this course, which is a 13-day course. And in this course, the students learning everything about solar energy.
PUM has made some good contributions to the program, because the skill training that we are offering is one of the rare skills that the country hasn't got.
Because of the COVID pandemic, all education has been done online, and this is not necessarily a bad thing.
Online education does work. It's actually quite surprising for me also, because it's completely new for me.
When COVID came, it is a negative thing to the society, but it has also played positively in the lives of people, because people have learned to improve in the e-business.
We think as a team that all the people we are educating right now are more or less a specialist in solar energy after following the course.
The PUM Libis training project especially focuses on the young people of Zambia.
It is a big chance for them. We have 84 students.
And with the training and the know-how that the experts have imparted in the youths, we definitely hope for that we have achieved the impact in terms of employment creation.
I think that building back better is a very good opportunity to start something after COVID.
Solar energy is not only an answer for sustainable job creation. There's an even bigger challenge ahead of us.
We have also a global warming problem. This knowledge, the young people who are going to be busy in renewable energy, is maybe a little bit a part of the solution of this problem.
Well, dear viewers all over the world, I hope you stay with us for another 4 or 5 minutes, because we will have a closing statement by the director of PUM. What an amazing afternoon this has been, Andy.
Absolutely. And I'm so happy and also proud about this conference, about that you've all been participating from Africa, from Asia, from Europe, and I think even a couple of you from Latin America, where it's still very early. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. What I did was to take some notes during the conference, and I would like to share some highlights with you from what I heard today. First, I was impressed by the passion and creativity of the entrepreneurs, like Audrey, like Emirates, about how they strengthen their business for the future. There's a wide array of business opportunities to build back better, or maybe I should say from now on, to build better forward. Second, it was interesting to hear about the contribution that business support organizations can make to give entrepreneurs a little push in the right direction and enable them to seize business opportunities. I remember Anders from ITC stressing the importance, what they did on facilitating digital access, fast track tech, I heard him say. And after that, Nicholas Koloff from Archidius Foundation said, yeah, that's important, but let's also not forget about the importance of networking, of face-to-face contact, really important. And maybe here I can make a remark about PUM's work, because we currently do all our work remotely with businesses, but we really think that the ideal situation is a combination of supporting remotely and supporting businesses in location. Here I should also mention as an important contribution that made Edith, who said, well, actually we can support entrepreneurs best throughout the whole value chain. Next mentioned is the value of knowledge sharing, to help build the capacity of businesses, to make them ready for the future, to make themselves ready for the future. And there I want to cite Stephen Collette, who said, learning is a two-way street. That's also why we talk about knowledge sharing and not about knowledge transfer. It's a two-way street. Then I would like to highlight the commitment and motivation of my colleagues, PUM experts, because they generously donate their time to help entrepreneurs across the world with their knowledge. And here, two people mentioned the importance of a mentor to support them to get out of the crisis. It was Nicholas Koloff and also Audrey who highlighted the importance of this. Then finally, I want to mention the contribution that partnerships can make. Partnerships like we've seen examples from today, to build the right conditions for entrepreneurs to do their business. Now, it could be that COVID-19 will be there for some time with us still, but I sincerely hope that we can leave this pandemic soon behind us, and that we will be able to meet and greet again, to drink a cup of coffee again, and that opportunities for a better world for businesses will be realized. At the end, it's not up to me to close the conference, you will do that, Petra, but I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. I want to use this opportunity to thank everybody, to thank all the people in the films that we've seen, to thank the presenters, the panelists, the organizers. Thank you very much.
A very small applause.
The moderator as well. And then you, audience, the attendees, for making this conference possible. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Andy. And thank you back home. You know, when I listen to all of the voices and when I see all generations learning from each other, it says senior experts. But seniority, you can have seniority when you're 21 and when you're 85. And I think what I've seen this afternoon is that PUM is a business support organization that enables people from all over the world to learn from each other, to share knowledge. And this meeting of generations, it really warmed my heart, and I hope it warmed yours as well. Have a nice afternoon, and I also would like to thank the amazing team here behind the scenes, the technicians, the team of PUM, and Andy. What a journey this was. I wish you a wonderful day, and I hope that building better forward will bring us together somewhere soon, maybe here in The Hague, maybe somewhere else. Have a nice day.